You ever keep a secret so long it starts to rot you from the inside out? That's what it felt like every time I looked at my sister in her white dress fittings, knowing what I knew. And yet, I never planned to say a word until her future mother-in-law asked me, straight to my face, is there anything I should know about her? I wasn't trying to sabotage her. That's the part that keeps me up at night. I didn't go in there with a mission or some revenge plot or even a hint of spite. I just answered the question. Truthfully. It all started 3 months before the wedding. My sister Emily was getting married to Daniel, and from the outside it looked like the perfect match. He was calm, stable, the human equivalent of a warm cup of tea. And Emily? Emily could make storms look gentle. She was beautiful, brilliant, the kind of person who walked into a room and made it about her without trying. But behind closed doors, well, not everyone knew the Emily I knew. We hadn't lived together since I moved out at 18. I'm 23 now. But the years before that had been enough to leave marks. Deep ones. There were the obvious things like how she used to lie to our parents and let me take the fall. I got grounded for sneaking out to a party she went to. Suspended for plagiarizing a paper she wrote. But that was small stuff. The real story was what happened the year I turned 17. Emily had been dating a guy named Lucas, older, rich, a college student with a motorcycle and the smugness of someone who knew exactly how attractive he was. One night she caught me talking to him in the kitchen, literally just talking. We were joking about a movie we both liked. She didn't say anything then. Just smiled. The next day, she told everyone I tried to steal her boyfriend. She made it a whole thing. Posted vague stories on Instagram. Told our parents I was manipulative. She even confronted me, screaming, calling me names I still remember. Slut. Snake. Parasite. Lucas ghosted her 2 weeks later. But the damage stuck. I never really recovered from that, not emotionally. I kept my distance, learned to tread lightly around her. Still, family is family. So when she asked me to be a bridesmaid, I said yes. Enter Catherine, Daniel's mother. A sharp, observant woman with a no bullshit demeanor and a keen sense for people. From the first time we met, she treated me like an equal, not just the bride's little sister. She noticed things. The way Emily cut me off mid-sentence. How she dismissed my ideas. One day, she pulled me aside after a brunch and asked, half laughing, has your sister always been like this? I froze. What do you mean? Catherine sipped her coffee. Just controlling. A little mean-spirited. I know planning a wedding's stressful, but I see how she talks to you. You flinch when she raises her voice. I gave a practiced smile. We're just different. She leaned in. You don't have to cover for her. The next week, she invited me to lunch. Just the two of us. That's when she asked me that question. Is there anything I should know about her? And too didn't plan to tell her everything. But once the door opened, it all came flooding out. I told her about Lucas. About the lies. The emotional abuse. I told her about the time Emily stole my college fund and claimed it was a misunderstanding. About the manipulation, the gaslighting, the quiet wars she started within our family that no one else saw because they didn't want to. Catherine sat there completely silent, hands folded. When I finished, she nodded once. Thank you for telling me. The wedding was called off the following week. Emily blamed me. She screamed at me in the parking lot of our childhood home. Called me a traitor, a jealous bitch, a nobody. I didn't respond. What could I say? Our family split down the middle. My mom says I overstepped. My dad hasn't said much at all. Some relatives texted me to say they were proud of me. Others blocked me. But here's the thing, Daniel reached out. Not right away, but a month later. He thanked me. Said he'd had doubts, that Catherine confronting him had opened his eyes. He said I probably saved him a lifetime of hurt. So I ask you, am I the asshole for telling the truth when my sister's future Emile asked about her past? You'd think the fallout would be explosive, dramatic. But in reality, it came in quiet ripples. Silent phone calls. Canceled appointments. A missing bridal shower that never got rescheduled. It was Daniel who finally pulled the plug. Emily didn't even find out from him directly. Catherine told her. She came over to our parents' house the following Sunday and sat with her in the sunroom. I wasn't there, but Mom said she could hear Emily screaming through the walls. Manipulated, poisoned, jealous little brat, all the usual phrases. When I came home that evening, Emily was already gone. She'd packed her things and left for a friend's apartment. She didn't say goodbye. But the story didn't end there, not for me. What no one tells you about truth is that it doesn't clean the wound. It just opens it. And everyone sees what's inside. I thought it would feel like relief. Like I could finally breathe. Instead, it felt like I'd set fire to my own house and had nowhere left to sleep. My mom wouldn't speak to me for 2 weeks. When she finally did, it was with this tight, strained smile. "I'm not saying you lied," she said, "but there's a difference between telling the truth and airing dirty laundry." My dad? He kept saying he didn't want to get involved. My aunt sent me a long Facebook message about destroying family harmony. My cousin Michelle, though, she sent me a pizza and a thumbs-up emoji. Silver linings. And then something happened I didn't expect. Catherine invited me to dinner. Just me and her. She said she wanted to talk, but I was nervous. The wedding had been officially canceled for almost a month at that point. Emily still hadn't spoken to me. I hadn't even seen her except once, in a blurry Instagram story at a beach with 2 of her college friends. She looked happy. So when I sat across from Catherine at a small Italian place downtown, I half expected an interrogation. Or maybe a polite scolding. Instead, she handed me a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. "You did the right thing. That takes courage." And below that, a $500 check. I stared at it. "I can't take this," I said. "You already did the hard part," she said gently. "This is just dinner money." I didn't cash the check, but I kept the note. And then she said something that stayed with me since. "Some people think being family means protecting each other no matter what. I think it means protecting each other from becoming someone you'll regret." That was the night I realized Catherine didn't just believe Mesh understood me. She saw the cracks in Emily's facade the way only someone outside the family ever could. But still, that didn't mean the guilt went away. And just when I thought things had settled, that maybe Emily would move on and I'd fade into the background again, she came back. It was a Saturday. I was at my parents' house helping clean out the attic. My mom had finally thawed a little, and we were boxing up old Christmas decorations. Suddenly we heard the front door slam. And there she was. Emily, standing in the living room like a ghost that had remembered its address. She looked thinner. Her hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, makeup flawless as always, but her eyes were empty. I braced myself. "You happy?" she said. "No hello. No warning." "Emily." "No. You don't get to talk. You ruined my life." I stood there holding a box of broken ornaments, heart pounding. Mom tried to step in, but Emily raised a hand. "Don't. She doesn't need you to defend her. She's good at pretending to be the victim." That was the moment I snapped. Quietly but definitively. "You asked me to be in your wedding," I said. "You wanted me standing next to you like none of it ever happened. I was willing to pretend for your sake." But I pointed toward the hallway where Catherine's voice still echoed in my memory. She asked me the truth. And I gave it to her. I didn't plan it. I didn't lie. I didn't embellish. I just stopped hiding. Emily didn't cry. I half expected her to. But Nosh just tilted her head. "You always envied me," she said. "Even as a kid." "Envy?" I laughed. It was hollow. Of what? Getting all the credit while I got all the punishment? Of you making me question my own memory for years? Of never knowing when the next lie would cost me something real? She blinked. Just once. Like it hit her for a split second. Then just as quickly the moment vanished. "You're pathetic." And with that she left again. But here's the twist. A few days later Lucas messaged me. Yes, that Lucas. I almost didn't open it. I stared at the little gray notification for hours before finally clicking. "Hey. This is random, but I heard about what happened. I always felt weird about that night in your kitchen. Like I walked into a trap. If I'd known then what I know now, I would have said something. I'm sorry." That was it. Just a short message. But it hit me harder than anything Emily had ever said. Because it was a trap. One I'd walked into blindly at 17, thinking it was harmless conversation. I don't even know how Emily spun it, what lie she told Lucas to make him vanish. But whatever it was, it worked. And now, years later, he was apologizing. A tiny ripple in the still water of memory. So I replied. "Thank you. That means more than you know." Closure doesn't come in big, movie-worthy moments. Sometimes it's a text from someone you thought forgot you existed. Or a check you never cash. Or dinner with someone who once might have been your mother-in-law. But just when I thought I was on the path to healing, something else happened. Emily's friend Carrie ached out. We'd never been close. She was one of those quiet background friends, always trailing behind Emily like a shadow with a Starbucks cup. But her message was short and direct. Hey, I know you probably hate me by association, but I wanted to tell you something. I saw what Emily posted after the wedding got called off. And I'm sorry. You didn't deserve any of that. I blinked. Wait, posted? That's when I found out. Emily had gone full social media smear campaign. There were vague story posts, don't trust snakes in your family, and even a full caption on her Finsta account that said something like, imagine having a sister who can't stand to see you happy, who lies to your fiancé's family to sabotage you. What kind of person does that? I wasn't tagged, but everyone knew who she meant. I stared at those posts for a long time. Then I deleted Instagram for 2 weeks. Let me be clear, I wasn't ashamed of what I'd said to Catherine. But seeing it twisted into this cartoon villain version of myself hurt more than I expected. And yet Becca's message reminded me I wasn't entirely alone. Even in the shadows, someone had been watching, listening, quietly choosing sides. I told Becca thank you. We ended up talking more over the next few weeks. And the most shocking part? She told me stories. About Emily. Stories that matched mine. She turned our friend group against me sophomore year, she said. Just because I started dating a guy she didn't like. Said I was fake. I lost almost everyone that semester. I sat there reading her words, jaw slack. She made me feel crazy, Becca added. Like I imagined it. But hearing your story, it felt like someone finally turned the lights on. And that's when it clicked. This wasn't just about me. Or Daniel. Or Catherine. Or even Lucas. Emily had always been this way. She just hadn't been caught. Until now. People like Emily don't self-destruct overnight. They crack in slow motion in the quiet behind slammed doors in the silence of group chats gone dead. Her world didn't collapse after Daniel walked away. It shifted subtly, like tectonic plates, and then suddenly, like an earthquake. More people started reaching out. Not many. Not loudly. But here and there an old classmate who remembered her spreading rumors in high school. A coworker who said Emily had taken credit for a project she didn't touch. Even Daniel's sister, whom I'd only met once at an engagement dinner, sent me a DM one night. I always had a weird feeling about her. You gave Daniel an out he didn't know he needed. And still, part of me kept waiting for Simeone and Anito say I went too far. But that moment never came. Not from those who mattered. 3 months passed. Emily moved out of town. No one said where exactly. Just that she had a new job, new apartment, and wasn't interested in being contacted by anyone with a toxic mindset. That quote came from a post she made on LinkedIn of all places, attached to a photo of her holding a coffee in front of a big city skyline. My mom printed it and stuck it to the fridge. She looks good, doesn't she? I didn't respond. What was I supposed to say? Yes, she looked good. She always did. Her shine had never been the problem. What was a problem was the fact that everyone kept trying to act like nothing happened. Like Emily was just taking space instead of fleeing the wake of the wreckage she'd caused. One night, I sat across from my dad at dinner, just the two of us. Mom was out with her book club. The TV was on low in the background, showing some rerun of a family sitcom where every problem was fixed in 22 minutes and a hug. I put my fork down. Do you think I did the wrong thing? I asked. My dad didn't look up immediately. He took a sip of water, wiped his mouth, and finally sighed. I think you told the truth. And I think sometimes the truth ruins things. That wasn't an answer. But it was honest. And I could live with that. What I couldn't live with was the feeling that I had become the villain in my own family's story. So I went to therapy. I didn't tell anyone at first. I just found a place nearby, made the appointment, and sat on a gray couch while a woman named Carla with soft eyes asked me how long I'd been carrying all this. Since I was 14, I said. Maybe earlier. Carla helped me name things I'd never dared to call out loud. Words like emotional abuse, family scapegoat, gaslighting. She didn't give me excuses for Emily's behavior. She gave me language. And with language came understanding. I started writing things down. Memories mostly. Not to send or show anyone. Just to own them. I wrote about the time Emily got me grounded for a week, because I accidentally saw her text messages. The time she cut up my prom dress and said it was an accident. The time she told me no one would ever believe me if I spoke up. And I realized something terrifying. I had started to believe her. That's why I never said anything to our parents. Why I never told Lucas the truth. Why I stayed quiet for so long. Because somewhere along the way, I had accepted her narrative as reality. And breaking out of it felt like waking from a years-long sleep. Then one day, I got a call I never expected. Daniel. It had been almost 5 months since the wedding was called off. I hadn't heard from him since that short message thanking me. But here he was calling me out of the blue. I picked up, heart racing. "Hey," he said, voice soft. "Hi." There was a pause. "I hope this isn't weird," he said. I wanted to talk." So we met at a coffee shop downtown. Not the one he and Emily used to go to. A different one, neutral ground. I got there first and spent 10 minutes staring into my cup, wondering if I should have worn something different. Smiled more. Smiled less. When he arrived, he looked better. Lighter. Like someone who'd been carrying a weight for a long time and had finally put it down. We didn't talk about Emily at first. We talked about work. About how he moved back in with his sister for a while. How he'd started hiking again. I told him I was thinking about going back to school, maybe studying psychology. And then quietly he said, "She told me you tried to break us up once before. Years ago." I froze. "What?" "She said when we first got engaged, you pulled her aside and said I wasn't right for her. That you always had a crush on me and I didn't deserve her." My stomach turned. "I never." "I know," he cut in. "I know. I didn't believe it then. But I didn't question it either. Not out loud." I stared at him. "She was so convincing," he said. "I didn't want to fight. I figured it was old stuff. Family stuff. I didn't understand." "That's what she always counted on," I said quietly. He nodded. "I'm sorry," he said. "For not seeing it sooner. For letting you carry all of that." And that was the first time I cried in front of him. It wasn't dramatic. Just a few tears slipped out before I could catch them. But he reached across the table gently and said, "You didn't ruin anything. You gave me the truth. And I'm still grateful." After that, we kept in touch. Casual texts. Occasional walks. It never crossed any lines, not romantic ones. We were two people bound not by love or bitterness but by clarity. And that was enough. Meanwhile, Emily stayed gone. My mom still sent her care packages. My dad still sent her money. I didn't ask questions. I didn't send anything. Not out of malice, just out of peace. I had made my choice. And for once I wasn't looking back. But life has a funny way of testing your resolve. Because one night, almost a year to the day since the wedding was supposed to happen, I got a letter. A real physical letter. Handwritten. No return address. Just my name on the envelope in that familiar looping cursive. I opened it on the back porch, heart pounding. It was from Emily. 5 pages. Front and back. She didn't apologize, not directly. Not for the lies or the manipulation, or the years she made me question my worth. But she told the story from her side. About how she always felt compared to me, even when she was winning. About how she learned early that people liked her more when she controlled the narrative. About how afraid she was of losing control. Of being abandoned. She wrote, "I don't hate you. I just didn't know how to be your sister without feeling like I was losing something." And near the end she wrote, "You told the truth. That's more than I've ever had the courage to do. I don't forgive you yet. But maybe that's not the point." I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it up, placed it in a box with the others: Catherine's note, Becca's messages, Lucas's apology. And I let myself breathe. Some stories don't end with forgiveness. Some don't end at all. They just keep unfolding, one quiet act of courage at a time. Life, after all the storms, does go on. But it doesn't go back. I kept Emily's letter, but I never wrote her back. Not out of bitterness, I just didn't know what to say. Some things don't need a reply. Some things are just meant to be read, felt, and accepted for what they are. The first stone on someone else's path to truth, not yours. It's been over a year now since the wedding that never happened. Emily still lives in another city. We're not friends. We're not enemies. We're something in between. Once I saw a tagged photo of her at a conference, standing next to someone I vaguely recognized from our college days. She was smiling, of course. She always knew where the camera was. But for the first time I didn't flinch. I didn't feel that punch in my gut I used to get every time I saw her thriving. Because this time I didn't feel like I'd lost. In fact, I felt free. Catherine and I stayed in touch. We exchange holiday cards, the occasional coffee, and sometimes long, warm texts that feel more like letters from someone who really sees you. She told me Daniel started dating someone new. A nurse. Smart, kind, funny. She said he smiles more now. I was happy for him, genuinely happy. He deserved that. Funny enough, Becca and I grew closer than I ever expected. She became a sort of unexpected ally in this weird, winding aftermath. We talk about books, therapy, sometimes even our childhoods. She told me once, "You were the first person who ever made me feel like I wasn't crazy for what I went through with her." And I understood that more than I can explain. Because that's the real damage people like Emily leave behind. Not bruises or scars, but confusion. They make you doubt your own reality. They make you smaller, one cut at a time. And when you finally speak up, when you finally choose honesty over comfort, the world doesn't always cheer. Sometimes it just blinks at you. Uncertain. Uncomfortable. But eventually the right people come into focus. And that's enough. I still go to therapy. Carla says I've made measurable progress. I no longer flinch when someone says my sister's name. I no longer replay that conversation in the kitchen with Catherine like it's some crime scene footage I need to analyze. I said what I said. And I would say it again. Not to hurt Emily, but to stop hurting myself. Last Thanksgiving, something strange happened. My mom set an extra place at the table. Quietly. No explanation. Just slid a plate next to mine like she'd always done it. And then at 4:12 p.m. Emily walked in. No dramatic entrance. No makeup. Hair tied up. A small cautious smile. She sat down. We all sat down. There was a moment just before grace where she looked at me. Just a second. Nothing was said. But I knew. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't an apology. It was recognition. Like she finally saw the full picture, not just the frame she had painted around me. We didn't talk much that night. Just enough. Just polite. After dessert, as I was washing dishes, she came and stood next to me. "I like your sweater," she said. "Thanks," I said. "It was a gift." She nodded. "You've always had good taste." I handed her a wet plate. She dried it without looking up. And that was it. No great reunion. No tearful scene. Just coexistence. A beginning maybe, or maybe just closure in a different form. A few weeks later I got a postcard. It was from Emily. A picture of a bookstore in another city, scrawled with her handwriting on the back. "Saw this and thought of you. Hope you're doing well." No name. No return address. Just that. I smiled. Because here's the thing they don't tell you about healing. It doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it's just learning to stand in your own truth even when it costs you people you once loved. Especially when it costs you people you once loved. I still think about that day in the kitchen. About Catherine's eyes when she asked, "Is there anything I should know?" About how, for once in my life, I didn't flinch. I didn't fold. I chose truth. And I'd choose it again. Every time. Because I'd rather be hated for telling the truth than loved for keeping the lie.